Welcome to All About It, the podcast all about infant mental health, youth development, and family systems. This is just an overview as we shared on our blog. We are so excited to cover topics that are all over the spectrum, stemming from prenatal care to adolescent challenges and everything in between. Our hope is to connect with other parents, caregivers, educators, therapists, doctors, and anyone that has children in their lives. I am Tiffany.
And I'm Danny.
And we are your co-hosts on this journey. This is our second episode and the beginning of a great adventure of knowledge. Today, we're going to be talking about intentional time. Maybe something you've heard about, maybe something you haven't. We also have a guest with us today. We have Erin McDonald. Erin is part of a home visiting program in Wichita, Kansas, that serves families with children under the age of 2. And Erin, correct me if I'm wrong, the home visitors follow those families until the child is 5 or goes to kindergarten. Erin graduated from Purdue University with a bachelor's degree in early childhood education. She is young but very experienced, and we are super excited that she agreed to be our first official guest on our show. But before we get to Erin, I would like to circle back around, and Danielle, would you share, we talked earlier this week and you had done some additional looking into the idea of intentional and what it means, perhaps from a therapist's lens.
There's the basic concept of being intentional with your time as a person, but then there's the concept of being intentional as it relates to tasks, your work, your duties, your relationships. We all have the intention to do something, to get something done, to set goals, but so many of us don't actually accomplish those things that we set out to do at the beginning of the day. I looked into researching how intentionality impacts relationships, whether that be your relationship with your significant other, your partner, your loved ones, or your child. I spoke to you recently about how a child can intend to clean their room, but without actually making a point to schedule it and to plan it and to set that time aside, they're probably not going to actually get that done. It's about setting your sights on something, truly setting your heart on the intent. And I think that's what Erin's going to talk to us about today, the intent and that one-on-one undivided attention that is so very much needed when you're building an attachment and rapport with a child or in a relationship. I listened to a lot of motivational speeches and videos on intentionality. How much time is wasted was discussed. Some of the information that I saw really caught my attention, discussing the time that we waste. The average lifespan is 80 years. The research showed that a total of 57 years is actually spent for most people in bed and on social media. In addition to that, 13 years are spent working. Most of us are spending not a whole lot of time living. Then I listened to another podcast that was discussing raising children and teenage behaviors. Someone mentioned that we only have our children for 18 summers. And that just struck me. Like, of course,
Wow.
if they move out at 18, 19, yeah, of course, that's 18 years. But when you really think of it as a summer, that kind of shook me for some reason.
Absolutely.
So the idea of being intentional with your time and your children and the relationships that you're in, just when you really break it down, 57 years total in bed and social media, but only 18 summers with your child.
Wow. Anybody that has a child in their life, summertime is, if you ask anybody that's got a school-age child or
Yeah.
younger, what do we do with them during the summer? The idea of intentionality is really something that you just don't hear talked about a lot. Even circling this back to early childhood, when we introduce this concept to parents, a lot of times the first answer we get is, I don't have enough time. I do not have enough time to do this. As a parent, when my son was little, I didn't know anything about intentional time, some of the challenges that he has with attention seeking. And I think had he had that intentional time, it would have, to your point, Danielle, have stretched into other areas of his life. So I think it's important for parents to understand that this investment of setting up intentional time, following through with it all the way through to teenage years is important. It may look different as a child gets older. It's the idea of putting those principles that you're talking about, Danielle, being intentional with your time, not just letting time slide by. Thank you for that. That really gives some depth to what we're talking about. I would like to circle back to Erin. Erin, welcome again.
Thank you. Thanks
Thank you
for having
so,
me.
yes, thank you for being here. We always, when we have a guest, come up with some questions prior to the podcast so that we can flow with conversation. So I wanted to ask you, how do you believe that the lack of parental attention historically impacted societies or communities? In other words, for our listeners, by not doing intentional time. And just a lot of our parents that we work with don't have time. They work 2, 3 jobs. They're trying to make ends meet. I don't think that's changed historically. What are your thoughts on that?
A lot of parents didn't know the importance of it, and now it's becoming more of a talked about thing in early childhood. The role is super important in shaping children as they grow up. It can affect their emotional and psychological development, so causing anxiety, depression, behavioral issues. It can affect their educational success, which then can affect them later in life. The importance of intentional time and not having it to experience it and realize the importance of it. Then, like Danielle said, they don't know how to plan for when they're going to clean their room. They don't know how to, and that goes into homework and that goes into making it to your job on time. When parents are intentional with their children, it helps children be able to self-regulate, helps them be able to realize that they can take intentional time when they need it independently.
Hmm.
So all of those things are learned behaviors and they learn from their parents and those are their first teachers.
So before we go any further with questions, tell me, Erin, when you talk to a parent and you're deciding, okay, it's time for me to introduce this concept of intentional time, what is it you say to them? How does someone just start doing this if they've never done it before?
Right. I like to say that anyone can make a little bit of time for it and that they probably are already doing it. They may not even realize, but if they read a story to their child every night, that can count as intentional time. If they sit down and have a meal together with no technology, no distractions, just sit down, talk, and eat, that can be intentional time. If they don't do any of that, some families just do not have the time, then we offer that they try and start with 2 minutes a day. Set a timer on their phone, sit down with the child. I've brought out bins with things in them, like books, toys that are appropriate for the child's age. I'll have them keep it in the bin when it's time for that intentional one-on-one time with that child. They can pull it out and the kid will start to get excited for that time. They'll realize it's time to get the box, it's time to have our playtime together. Even if it's
So
2 minutes, it can make
I
a
see.
huge
So
impact.
you have either a bag or a box that has
Yes.
stuff that's specific to that child that you're going to do during intentional time that is
Yes.
special.
Yes.
Is that what I'm
Mhm.
understanding? Okay.
Yes, for the
Okay.
parents to be able to make that a routine. So if they feel like they would have the most time before bed, then it can be things like scented lotion and a bedtime story or bath toys and stuff
Mm.
like that. And then I encourage them to put their phones away for that time. Set the timer and just focus on what you're doing, even if it's just 2 minutes. They may realize that they can easily do more time and then they can add more time or 2 minutes several times a day.
So what do you tell parents that have multiple children? Like, how does a mom or a dad or a caregiver, grandparent, whoever is watching the children raising them, when they have more than one, how do they siphon that out?
If there's an age gap, sometimes the younger kids go to bed first and then they can have time with their older kid. Maybe the older kid's in school and the younger kid isn't. So whenever they have a time in the day that they can, or if there's two parents, maybe they switch off. Maybe one parent has one child this day, the other has the other child, and then tomorrow it's flipped. Or if they do it multiple times a day, one child can be with one parent and then switch later that day.
Nice. And how young do you recommend that parents start doing this intentional time?
Infants, as soon as they can. I think that it's so important to have that time where you're not on your phone. Even infants can pick up on your facial expressions and movements. That's how they learn to talk. That's how they learn to calm themselves down, is all from their parents. And so that's why it's super important, even starting as young as infants.
It's like that study wherein they showed the baby's reaction to the mother's flat face.
Yes.
You think about how your face looks when you're just scrolling. And if you have a baby watching your face, you're displaying indifference. And think about in a romantic relationship, how triggering it is for most of us to express indifference and flatness from our significant other.
Yes.
Imagine an infant who's expecting pure love.
Those videos upset me because the baby just gets so distressed. It's terrible.
I'm trying to think what that study is called, but I know exactly what you're talking about. I've seen it multiple times in the course of school. And oh, yes, that is a point. When you have a baby, oftentimes you will see a baby sitting next to the mom or next to the caregiver. Not that that's wrong, but what we're talking about today is taking that intentional time that you're face to face, even with a baby, even during tummy time or anything like that.
And that's how you build attachment and a bond with the baby, having those back and forth interactions, even if they're noises back and forth or facial expressions back and forth. That's how you build that bond from a young age.
And just to be clear, we're not talking about you take the baby to daycare and they're at daycare and they're stimulated all day. That's not what we mean by intentional time. We mean caregiver, primary person in that child or infant's life.
And it could be a teacher, if a teacher has time to have one-on-one time with the child. That's rare, but it can happen.
Erin, how do you feel like technology has changed the dynamics of the parent-child interaction throughout history?
I feel like it has changed significantly. Just the way that parents, like Danielle said, you're completely blocked out when you're on your phone. So a lot of times that leads to ignoring the baby's cues, ignoring what your child's asking you. It's a lot harder to have that intentional time if you're trying to make sure that you're accomplishing all of your tasks, answering all your emails.
I feel like historically, when they say back in the day, there was so much less technology and so much less things. No head, whatever the head thing is, I'm showing my age, but all the different gaming and stuff. Dinner time was intentional time. You know, everybody sat together or one-on-one. Intentional is one-on-one. It's not a group thing. It's a one-on-one interaction with the child. That makes a lot of sense.
So many families now have meals in front of the TV or mom's on her phone the whole meal. Asking your child about their day during dinner time is huge. How was your day? How was school? What'd you learn? It gives them the confidence to speak about their experiences and makes them feel appreciated and heard.
Well, and what ages are you typically seeing, Erin?
I see infant to 5 is our index child. A lot of them have older siblings in the home and we'll work with them as well. Yeah.
Because we're talking intentional time from birth, basically.
Yes.
To them leaving the house and maybe even after that. Because as Danny said, it creates a pattern of behavior that transfers over to relationships and all different aspects of life. I think I had one more question on my list. In what ways do you think spending intentional time with children can affect their future leadership abilities?
Like I said, it can affect their education and doing well in school. If they don't feel like they're getting attention at home, they may be doing attention seeking behaviors at school, which can affect their learning, which then goes on into their jobs. Yeah. And along with that, like Danielle was saying, it's creating that routine, it's creating that habit. And so if they don't have that knowledge at a young age or even as a teenager, then it's going to affect them as they grow up. They're not going to as they move on out of the house. They're not going to know how to be intentional, how to make plans for themselves, and
Yeah.
all of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Responsibility, creativity, innovation. Those are
Yeah.
all things that are started so young by such a
Yes.
habit. And yeah, Danny, do you have any questions for Erin?
It honestly makes me think of we offer, it's called PCIT therapy, parent child interaction therapy. Erin, have you heard of this?
Yeah.
And it's a type of therapy that can be used for really anybody. Typically it goes up to age 7, but what we do is we take the therapist, and it is very time consuming, the therapy itself, to do it from start to finish. We take the child and caregiver, and in one room we put the child and the caregiver, and then on the other room with a one-way window, we observe the child and the caregiver playing. We have the child pick out a toy, but it's a simple toy. It's wood blocks, it's a couple toy cars, maybe it's a small bit of Play-Doh or crayons and paper. It's back to the basics. In the beginning, the child guides everything. The child's in control. Most of these children do have high behaviors, and the parents feel like they've lost control.
Mhm.
I've seen kids with lesser behaviors, but still needed that intentional time. Any behavior is a form of communication. That's what these kids are asking for. They're trying to communicate what they need. In the beginning of this therapy, the therapist observes and watches the child lead the play. Eventually, the therapist, they have a mic in their ear, and the caregiver has a mic in their ear, and they guide through and guide the parent what to say. So it's a lot of descriptive words. Oh, I see that you're coloring a tree. And so the child's leading the play, and then eventually the caregiver starts to lead the play. It's almost striking. Whenever we do that with the caregiver and the child, the most striking thing every single time is that the parent realizes how little they are actually the best of parents. I've seen parents, full-time employed, teacher, mother, father in the home, married, seemingly normal, put together families that are like, oh, I didn't realize how little I'm spending time with my child that is undivided attention.
Yeah.
And we're just talking even 5 to 15 minutes sitting there rolling a ball back and forth. The people that we would assume to be picture perfect-esque family, the Leave It to Beaver family, they are the ones that are also using their phones and on their screens. It's everybody. We're all
Anybody,
Good
yeah.
point.
Yeah.
It's so much a part of our life. I guess I need to go
Right.
home because I don't have internet. I love how you brought attention to the simple things, because I know after seeing this in play that it is not necessarily extravagant things that are in the intentional box. It can
Yes.
be just blocks. And since
Yes.
Erin said you start this when they're born, it could absolutely be a beach ball that gets rolled back and forth, or that the
Right.
baby gets rolled back and forth on, or
It
whatever
could be a
have you.
rattle. You make That's a
Right.
big thing in our curriculum, that parents can make toys with what they have at home. Empty water bottle and some beads can be a rattle, or one of those balls that the toy comes in and you put rice in there, sensory bottles with water, food coloring, and oil, all those kinds of things. It really doesn't have to be complicated. A lot of times it's easier for children to focus and learn when it is one simple toy. A
Absolutely.
lot of toys nowadays are
complex.
complicated and can be overstimulating.
I can remember when my son was little, he would get into things, and so many parents report this. They buy these wonderful toys that are Einstein and have all the recommendations, and then they take it home. He wants the pot and pan, he wants the empty box, he wants the
Yeah.
spoons. It is such a common thing that there has to be a developmentally appropriate stage. This is a real thing. They really don't need expensive toys.
They just want to be included in what you do a lot of times. I love the Montessori practice and having one of those ladders where the kid can be up with you on the counter and cooking, prepping, all of those things with you. They're learning a lot of words, life skills, any of those kinds of things that they can get in on with you is great.
And it's a good reminder because it seems like such a simple concept, but it really isn't. I know for myself, when you have limited time, it's about function, getting done, next
Mhm.
on the list, and it'll be all right if I don't read to them this month. And yet, as we've learned from all the stuff we've talked about, this is something that stems into adulthood and starts to be the pebble in the lake sort of situation where that time put in on the front end is going to be extremely important as that child grows and gets older. Sounds like.
Well, we think back to our favorite childhood memories, and they're always simple. One of mine, I was in the car and my uncle was driving, and he was teaching me how to whistle just while we were driving. Simple thing.
Yeah.
I loved playing sink or float when I was little, and that is something that
Yes.
any parent can do with any child with
Yes.
objects around the house.
And it's usually the things that are remembered. Thank you so much for being a
Thank
guest.
you.
Danny and I have a few closing statements, but we want to thank you for being here with us.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes. Thank you so
Really
much.
appreciate it. We always like to offer at the end of our podcasts that we do not offer therapeutic advice. Our information is from guests' opinions and experience. Take it, grow with it, or leave it if it doesn't suit you. As always, we want you to hit the subscribe button, comment. We'd love for you to visit our website, dialogue with us on the blog. We're very excited about being able to push information forward. And part of the way of doing that is having you respond and share information back. Danny, do you have anything you would like to say before we sign off?
No, I'd say to the overworked, overwhelmed, stressed, for those parents and adults that are listening, try starting with some intentional time for yourself. Set some time, even if it's 5 minutes, to do something just for you that has nothing to do with your phone. Whether it's gardening, reading, writing, or listening to a song and just sitting. But do something and practice it. Practice it on yourself because we all deserve that self-care. And as we all know, you cannot take care of everybody else if you're not taking care of yourself.
I love that. Was that your ending quote, or do you have a
No.
quote on top of that knowledge?
If you're ready for the ending quote, I did
I
find
am ready for our ending quote.
So this one, man, I found so many quotes on intentionality, but this one seemed to really resonate with me because I work with so many very stressed out caregivers. It's not just moms, it's grandmas, aunts, uncles, dads, everybody. This one says, intentionality doesn't mean perfection. It only means purposeful.
I love that. And I also just want to add that I really like, Danny, that you mentioned to start with yourself first, because if it's not something that you've been doing, that's okay. You know better, you do better. Starting with yourself in 5 minutes. Set your timer on your phone and set it down for 5 minutes. You can breathe, you can just sit, you can lean back, close your eyes. Danny said it could be anything. So thank you very much. Please hit the subscribe button. Next episode, we will be talking about protective layers, which is a whole nother thing. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, Erin. Bye.
Bye.